Everybody.
He was just talking about how your stamina for greatness has been so inspiring to him, Chase. Like, is there anything about Chase's process and how he's kind of been the last couple of years that stands out to you as far as like his growth and maturity and that?
Oh, elite. I remember when the recruiting process was going on about if we gonna bring Chase Young in or not, and it was just like no question. It was like no question. Just get him here. Just get him here. And it was all these narratives around him about the type of player he was, and I don't really follow people's storyline or really watch a lot of football where people are not in our locker room. But it was just like I remember when he came out, I knew who he was, knew of him, and when he came in, the first thing I noticed was his hunger for greatness. When you have guys who play at a high level for a long period of time, it's usually one or two responses that other guys in the locker room, they're either drawn to him or they just kind of standoffish. And he was somebody that just kind of came to me right away and was just like, man, whatever you got, I want it. However you train in the offseason, I want to know how you train it. However you take care of your body, I want to know about it. And that stood out. And it was just like, he got it. He got it. And then we had a lot of conversations just about not just being a great player, but be a great man, be a great leader. It's never days off. It ain't like you just come in and put in work on the football field and then you turn it off when you go on about your life. And that's what we had a lot of conversations around. And I watched him grow as a man. I watched him grow as a human being. I watched him grow as a person. And that was happening before I feel like everybody saw it. This year, everybody, of course, saw it. But even if you watched him, last year, he was already taking those steps. And it really was just a credit to him. He knew what he had to do. He was like, Didi, just hold me accountable. I know what I got to do to change. And he did it. And I think, man, he won all those battles in the dark. And I think that's just a reflection of life, of what's possible, that everybody has those individual battles. And the story will follow your journey. In publicly, what happens will be directly reflective of what happens in the dark. I think the Bible talks about what's done in the dark will one day be shouted from the rooftops. And I think everybody is seeing the type of player that Chase Young is capable of being, but it's because of what he's done in the dark.
Demario, when we talked to you on Friday, you seemed very at peace, optimistic, excited about 2026. What about this season has put you in that headspace and has made you feel so excited about what's next?
In regards to the New Orleans Saints, I think there's a lot to be optimistic about for this organization in particular. I think, number one, you have a solidified QB1, and I think there's been a lot of quarterback changes over the last few years. I got a chance to see a lot of them since Nine walked out of the building, and there's probably the most excited. Everyone inside the organization and outside the organization has been excited about a quarterback. And that just takes a lot of pressure off of a lot of decision making. When you kind of constantly shuffling that piece, which is the main piece, it becomes hard. And I just think it's a credit to him and the plays that he's consistently showing and making that it's earned that trust. And I think when you kind of go into the offseason, you have that, it makes a big difference. I think the quality of guys who are developing on the roster, when you have Alontae Taylor, who's played lights out, you have young, consistent safeties, Jonas Sanker, Jordan Howden, Justin Reed brought in. His leadership's been off the charts. When you have Kool-Aid McKinstry, true lockdown corner, taking that next step. When you have dynamic, pass rushers with Carl Granderson, Chase Young, having a 10-sack season and missing 5 games. Brian Brzee, who's constantly being one of the premier interior players. When you have stout run game, starting with your interior defensive line, having Gotcha, Bullard, Ridgeway, Shepard, having guys like that interior, everybody knows I talk about like our my linebacker tree, but this linebacker room is probably one of the best ones I've been a part of, and that is not taken away from the guys. We just played against one of them, Caden Ellis, not taken away from Zach Bond, another all-pro season, not taken away from Alex Anzalone, not taken away from all those guys who I've had a chance to play with and that were in this locker room. But, I mean, when you look at Pete Werner, Danny Stutzman, Isaiah Stahlberg, Jalen Ford, you got in the game the other day, I think he played like 5 snaps and had 3 tackles. It's like when you look at these guys, and don't forget, like, Nephi Soul, who's on the practice squad, was playing meaningful minutes before he got hurt. And so he's still that same guy. Like, so, man, when I talk about, like, the room, and so when you have a quality group of young guys like that, that's building and growing, I think offensively, you have a young offensive line. You had Chris Olave, really show that he's a true number 1 receiver this year, going out and balling. Juwan Johnson playing like one of the top tight ends in the league. I think there's a lot to be excited about as far as, heading into the offseason with a lot of momentum, because what you have is no longer potential, but you have guys who are answering the call and becoming who they were projected to be. And when you get that, you don't always get that, and you have all that happen at one time. It's a good thing.
Do you want to be part of that next season?
Do I want to be part of that? Man, I don't even think I have to speak about my love for the city and the organization, this organization in particular, because of what I feel about the owner, Ms. B. I think she's the greatest owner in sports. And so playing for her is, is huge. I love the coaches that have been brought in and the culture that has been established. I think very highly of Kellen Moore. The way he runs the team is, I said it again, that's how I would run a team. Coach Staley, as a defensive coordinator, has really, even in year 14, taken my game to another level. I think the player that I've been able to be this year is directly connected to, having him come in, and I've learned a lot, playing for him. And Coach Sermon, I think, being a former player as a linebacker coach, has really helped, because he can speak to me as a player who played the game for a long time in the same position. And so that's allowed me to grow as a player. So I think I don't have to speak about like what this organization means to me, but at the same time, I don't have so much say-so in where my journey goes. As a servant of the man above, I go where I'm sent. And I certainly don't close a book before it's supposed to be closed. But when new chapters happen, I have to be open to go. And so, I love it here, but at the same time, I never can project what's going to happen next.
Did your production this season like fuel you to say, you know what, I want to keep doing this?
Well, that was a goal for me. So I think I made a statement about how much longer I wanted to play. And, you can have these goals. But I also said another goal was I gotta have a PR in some department. I have to have a personal best in some department, which is an indicator to me that I'm still doing it at a high level. So whether that's tackles, tackle for losses, pass breakups, forced fumbles, whatever. And I got off really hot with tackle for losses and forced fumbles, so I was like, oh, well, it's probably going to be one of those. I didn't think it was going to be the tackles, but they just kept racking up. And, so I think, coming into the game, I already had, surpassed, what my previous high was. And that's just a good indicator for me that I can still do it at a high level, that my body is still producing at the level. I don't want to be somebody that just sticks around and hangs on. Like, if I can't, my mind is wired just towards being the best. If I can't feel like I'm one of the best doing it or doing it at my best, then, you know, it's other things that I could be doing with my time. And so that's a big part of it. And I think that was a huge part of it. But also there's an internal sense that kind of goes on with that the mission is ultimately not finished. You know, it's like I'm going to be in this game as long as God has me here doing what he has me doing, because I don't think it's just about football. It's about using the platform the right way. It's about how you impact people. It's about how you show up, and that matters. And I certainly don't want to cut it short before my time is finished.
Demario, we've heard that phrase silent treatment quite a few times this year. Like, just why is that so impactful to you guys, like in terms of the culture and everything that stadium's building?
Because that's what matters. I think there's a lot of narratives that can get tossed around and things to be said, but at the end of the day, what really matters is when you turn on the tape. Like when I'm studying another team, it doesn't matter what the narrative about or what they're saying on, you know, different networks. What really matters is what they're putting on tape, because that's the tendencies. That's what we have to play. That's what we have to respond to. And you know, what do guys see when they turn on the tape? You know, and I think that's really what speaks. It's not, you know, it's not talk. It's not lip service. It's what are you actually doing? And there's no greater indicator of what you're doing than the silent tape. You know, put the tape on, and what does it say?
And Cam's always maintained that he's always been who he is, but to see him at age 36, 10.5 sacks this year, how would you just make it his season?
It's unreal. Cam Jordan is the greatest defensive player that I've had the opportunity to play with, and I played with some really good ones. I played with Darrelle Revis. I played with Antonio Cromartie. I played with Ed Reed. I played with guys who were the best at their position. And when you look at Cam Jordan's body of work in year 15, going for close to a double-digit sack season, and he's just always doing it. But I think the way he plays the run, too, he's not just one of those guys that's just out there just rushing the passer. He's constantly being a force in the run game, and he's just consistent. He doesn't miss games. He's out there. And I think it's a credit to him. Even I think this year is probably even more impressive because he's having a higher level of production with less snaps. It's not like he's out there, you know, playing the amount of snaps that he once played, and he's still having that production. It's unbelievable. I'm a huge admirer of it, and I just think it goes into his process. Like when I watch Cam in the off season and during the season, he's doing the same thing all the time. Like, you know, after games, you can catch him out. He'll probably be out there, even though the season's over. He'll probably be out there tomorrow jogging laps. That's just who he is, and it speaks. He takes care of his body the right way, and I think he has that old school mentality of, you know, being durable and being available. And when the game is on, I just think he's just a hard person to deal with one-on-one. And I think this organization is blessed to have him. You know, like he's surpassed a Hall of Famer who's the, you know, greatest defensive player in history in this organization. He surpassed those numbers, and he's still going. And it's just, so I think sometimes it's hard to give people their flowers while they're still doing it because you don't know what level of greatness. But for me to be around it is just something that is it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing to, it's like, man, this dude is the greatest player that defensive player I've ever played with, and he's on my team, you know. And so it's unreal, you know, that it's happening in real time. I think it's just, you know, hats off to him and all that he's accomplished.
We have time for one more with Demario, if there are any. Good.
Hey, y'all be blessed.
Thanks, Mario.
Folks, we're a little tight for time with the buses.